Just give us a few minutes. We're just waiting for some audio things to get resolved, and we'll begin.
Can you hear me, James? Nothing? Can you hear me now? No. Same system. Speaker and mic are the same system. I think it's in there. Yeah. Isn't that lovely? Yeah. Bright in your afternoon. You can. Yeah, that. I'm not seeing anything. If I track this, yeah, so I'm taking the page out. I'm not seeing anything. Never before. You shouldn't. I shouldn't think so. Okay. Are you hearing anything now? There you go. Okay. Okay. Very good.
Are they ready?
Found something. At least that's
Yeah, we're good now. Thank you, Jeff. All right, welcome everybody to our City Council meeting on today, July 9th, 2020. Feels like about the, second year of 2020. Feels like it's been a couple of years, and we're halfway through the year already. Anyway, we have a full council here, and the way things go these days, a pretty full house. So thanks for attending. We will begin, and I hope this is going to work okay. We're going to begin with an invocation by Luigi Pachetti, who is with the Unity Church and also representing the St. George Area Interfaith Council. He is on Zoom, and so we're going to see if that works. There he is. He's waving.
I'm here.
Okay, the time is yours, Luigi.
Okay. So let us just take a moment, and if you feel comfortable in doing so, close your eyes and just take a couple of regular breaths and connect with the divine spirit that is in each of us. And as we do so, let us give thanks for our city council, our mayor, and all his council members. And we bless them for their hard work and for providing us with good governance for the city of St. George, especially in these difficult times. And we send our love and support and prayers to the mayor and all his council members and to all his staff that help govern our city. And we give thanks for all the hard work that they do. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so
Peace.
much.
You bet.
Thank you, Luigi.
Okay.
Let's stand if we could and say the Pledge of Allegiance together. I'll start us off. Ready, begin. Thank you. Let's see. Before we begin from the written agenda for the evening, Council, I have a proclamation that I'd like to read and then maybe invite a couple people to come up and say anything that they'd like to say. This is the topic is parks and recreation, and this is kind of an important thing for us in the city of St. George. So if you'll indulge me, everybody, at this point, I'll read this and go from there. Whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including St. George, Utah, and are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community. And whereas our parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of the community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction of and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas parks and natural recreation areas improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of the air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to development, and produce habitat for wildlife. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And now, therefore, I, Jonathan T. Pike, Mayor of the City of St. George, and the St. George City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of July 2020 as Park and Recreation Month in the city of St. George. So, if we could, I'd love to, I've already signed this, I'd love to invite Shane McAfee, who is over our Recreation, Arts, and Parks area. We call it Leisure Services. I'd like to rename that one of these days, because it sounds like that. And that's anything but what that department is. And so anyway, Shane, would you come forward? I'd like to present this to you, and also Craig Shanklin. And anyone else that's a part of this group, I'd like to present this to you and then give you an opportunity to say a few words. Can I give this to you, Craig? How about that? Why don't you, anything you'd like to say, Shane, Craig, and then we'll take a photo. And this is so important. We want to highlight this in the community, and David Cordero's actually already prepared a press release talking about this, which we don't often do, but this is big for us. It's very important for us. So take a few minutes or whatever, Craig and Shane.
Well, I was just going to thank Craig and his beautiful wife, Di, who's here, for coming down and helping out. They're such wonderful supporters of the community and have a true understanding of the philosophy of recreation. And I think they'll, for years, the reason that St. George is such a leader as it is the vision that the city councils of the past, the mayors and the city managers have had for what St. George could be. But with that, I'll just turn time over to Craig.
Thanks, Shane. For those of you that don't know me, Craig Shanklin, I'm with the Southern Utah Bicycle Alliance and also the Healthy Dixie Council. And I'm here to celebrate with Shane this proclamation, and I think it's great some spotlight's been shown on his department, which does such wonderful things. The thing that jumps out at me on this proclamation, though, are the health benefits. We think of leisure services as being fun things, but it's really the health benefits that it provides to our community. And I don't think people realize, almost all of our modern diseases, high blood pressure, obesity, stroke, all those things have a common cause, and that's inactivity. And all of Shane's department's programs really give us an opportunity to break that role of inactivity. And so I would just support Shane and his department and thank them for everything that they're doing, and especially you and the council for supporting their activities, and what a tremendous benefit it is for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Picture and more than mask so I can be close to you. Shane, you need to get up there too. Thank you. I appreciate it. Some of you might have noticed even today we celebrate small things. Sometimes they seem small, but they mean a lot to people. Today, I think it was today, the bike lane on First South was painted striped, and we recently, there's a couple cyclists there. And that means a lot to people on that street. It's a great way to, show the motorists to kind of be looking out, and also it helps the cyclists feel, safer because they've got a defined space, and soon they'll be stenciling the bike, logo, if you will, periodically. So we've talked very recently with Cameron, Danielle, and I, just to kind of clarify a couple of those things. And what I love about our community, and it's part of that Dixie spirit that we talked about it this morning, it's a barn-raising mentality. And even when it comes to things like pickleball courts and stencils on bike lanes, we have Suba who's willing to help with a number of projects, whether it's signage on our trails or even helping with the stencils on the bike lanes. They've said we're willing and happy to help raise funds or provide labor. I just appreciate that. I think we all do, because that's how we've gotten things done here for many, many years. Right, Greg? All right. So, That's the only pre-agenda item that I had. Adam, any changes to our agenda?
No changes.
Excellent. Okay, then we will begin the written agenda. Council, any changes or things you want to highlight before we get started with that? Don't let me forget anything if there's anything I'm missing. Then we'll go to comments from the public. We have, on this first meeting of the month, we reserve a little bit of time to give anyone who has an item that they'd like to bring before the mayor and council and staff that's not on the agenda, and maybe not likely to be on the agenda, but that they'd like to spend up to 3 minutes. That's what we would do at this time. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, so we'll need to make sure we stay on time because we do have regular meeting items today and then a work meeting that's going to follow this. So it looks like we have, and I may not be able to read everything. Jimmy might have to read it for me. But we have, is it Dwayne? Yes, sir. Regarding Sunbrook Drive. Would you come forward first?
Yeah.
Is it Monto?
Monette.
Monette, sorry. Okay.
Dwayne Monette.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, Councilman, I'm here today to talk about Sunbrook Drive. Sunbrook Drive. Sunbrook Drive is experiencing an enormous amount of additional traffic because of the DeVario project. Most of the residents of Sunbrook had no idea that area was going to be developed at all, and the ones that did thought Plantation Drive would be built for the entrance to DeVario, not using Sunbrook Drive. I personally, I'm the Sunbrook Homeowners Association president. I've been president 10 years. I've lived in Sunbrook 18 years. We have never experienced any traffic like what's happening now. What's really happened is you got, in fact, we counted them. We had up to 100 huge diesel trucks going up and down Sunbrook Drive on many, many days in the last months. And I personally counted them one day. In 34 minutes, there was 33 of them. This is in addition to all the cars and other trucks that are going up into DeVario. Sunbrook puts into the city approximately $1,400,000 in real estate taxes. We expect better than that. We have asked for a stoplight down at Dixie Drive and Sunbrook Drive and been turned down. It's very dangerous down there, and I've had, literally hundreds of residents ask me to talk to the council to try to get a stop light down there and to get Plantation Drive built, or what's now I understand called DeVario Drive. We don't care if you just put in a dirt road so that the vehicles that are going up there to build out DeVario can use that instead of Sunbrook Drive. Sunbrook Drive has become very dangerous. Many of our residents walk up from the French Quarter and the areas down in that area, Santa Maria, to walk across the street to go to the rec center. And with the traffic going by there, it is dangerous for them to go. And we've got a lot of kids crossing there. So, excuse me. Most of the Sunbrook residents were not aware of the Sunbrook Drive, and at this time are, to be honest with you, very angry at the city. Now, personally, and I think a lot of the residents of Sunbrook Drive think the city has done a marvelous job of managing business, the city business. This is just one area that we will bring to your attention, and we want to ask you to put that road in and put it in now. And we would like to ask for a stoplight, and we would like to have it now. Thank you for this today.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it, Dwayne. And maybe we can just respond a little bit. I may ask Cameron Cutler to respond. Why don't you come forward? And maybe, Cameron, if you would, kind of maybe talk about the load, the traffic volume on the road and kind of what is expected or that it should be able to handle. And then talk, if you would, about the traffic light and maybe about the loads as well and covered loads and so forth.
Sure. So Sunbrook Drive, I mean, when you count the homes out there today, there's only just over 500 homes, and that's why in the past they haven't. It doesn't warrant a traffic signal. If you include the development that's coming, and even the empty lots that are in the Sunbrook area, if you add about 500 homes on that, double it, then it does warrant a traffic signal. Based on today, even with the homes that have been going into DeVario, doesn't quite warrant it. But I have done some traffic, some counts, some projected counts for those, and once that 500 hits, it being warranted at that point, you could actually put in a traffic signal based on the projected numbers. And so within the next 5 years, if those homes continue to build and hit that mark, then we can go ahead and put one in. Because of that, I was looking to just start the design on it so that we do have that design, maybe even order the equipment for that time when we want to put it in. We could probably put it in sooner than later. The truck traffic and everything else, I apologize that when there's development, when there's construction work, you do have truck traffic. I did have our inspectors check on the contractor at DeVario, and they have not been hauling trucks, the material in and out of there. One of the items was whether or not they were covering their loads. And it's been a few months that they haven't been going in and out of there because they got approved to make the material on site, do the crushing. And so all of their material, their construction material is on site, other than things like if they have wood delivery, if they have asphalt for paving, those don't get covered or anything. But one of the culprits that we found is some of the home builders in the old subdivisions, the Sunbrook subdivisions that have been there for a while, they're starting to build. And so our inspectors are checking on that, making sure that they're covering their loads. But we think that's where in the past few months, that's the only thing that we have thought of, that maybe that's where any kind of dust or anything like that, uncovered loads, is coming from.
Adam, would you just make any comments you'd like to in terms of the use of the road, and maybe when we end up with the developer building the extension of Plantation Drive or whatever it's going to be called, and it will probably not be called DeVario Road, by the way. So
Right, or Plantations.
Or Plantations.
Right. Yeah, this is interesting. As I understand it, Sunbrook and DeVario were approved about the same time. That development's been planned out there for a very long time. Sunbrook Drive is a public street, and it's built to handle a certain capacity of vehicle traffic every day. And as of right now, that road is not anywhere near capacity on traffic. I would say that the developer certainly has the right, or any of the home builders, to use that road. Obviously, there are limits on, not covering loads, things like that. But it is a lawful use of the road. I don't see how the city would be able to preclude anybody at this point from using or traveling on that road. However, I would want to follow up on the traffic signal. And Cameron, if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds to me like we're probably at that point where we could go ahead with a traffic signal. I don't know if we've done any engineering so far, but it sounds to me like we're probably there. And I know that traffic signal would help a lot. So would that be accurate?
Yes. In fact, I mean, if there was no other development out there, if there was never planned development, I apologize. I'm sorry for people that I get that quite a bit, that homeowners find out later on that there's development planned somewhere, but that Sunbrook Drive never would have been a 5-lane road, 2 lanes in each direction, if it hadn't had other planned development up the road from it. But because of that extra development or that additional development coming in, that's what's going to push for a traffic signal. But today, you don't have near the traffic.
And given that we budget for a certain number of traffic signals each year to be constructed, is that one that could be moved up the list?
Yep.
Okay. Council, your thoughts there?
You support that, council? And
Yes, based on the anticipated number of
right.
homes out there.
Projected numbers, yep.
In other words, and Jimmy's hinting at this, we can't just put up a traffic signal wherever we want to or whenever we want to. They have to meet warrants, federal warrants. And what Cameron's saying is we're probably close enough, and with the homes that are being built now and within the next year, we're probably close enough we could do it.
Go ahead and get started on it. Yeah. And then maybe we could clarify again. There are some guidelines, or let's say regulations, that we've given DeVario as far as requirements to have to build Plantation / DeVario Drive, whatever it will be called. Do you remember what those numbers are? And John can help
Let's see,
us.
I know, John, you might need to help me on this one, but I think it's, they're approved phases 6 to 12, I think, to be able to build those. Once they go beyond that, then they have to build a secondary access, which is Plantations Drive or whatever it's going to be named. They are participating in the cost of that signal also. And that was in their traffic study back when it was called the Lakes, and it came before council and was approved at that time with that development agreement.
John walked back to his seat and sat down, so I think you got it right.
There is one thing I would add, though, and that is the Barrio development does not go all the way south. In fact, there's an unincorporated county right now, the Burgess property, that is in between Dixie Drive and the Barrio's southern border. So there's going to be a section there that'll need to be finished in the future that will not.
That DeVario will not be building, so there, and we are negotiating with those property owners right now in the county to bring that in as an annexation, and they will dedicate the street, but it'll still need to be built, so that won't solve the problem if DeVario builds their portion of Plantations.
I thought they were calling it Sean Guzman Drive.
Memorial.
Oh, Memorial. We have to wait for that?
You gotta wait till he dies. Don't you?
I can't even see him over there. I see this little shiny spot every once in a while.
Could that be him? Sure.
I didn't hear, because I'm old, what the requirements were before you're going to start the Plantation Drive or whatever the name will be. What's going to happen before you start it?
So they can build out to a certain number of lots, and that in their lots is planned phases 6 through 12. And once they go outside of that, then they have to build a secondary access, which kicks into gear the need for an additional road.
Yeah.
Where's the secondary access?
It would be Plantations Drive.
Yeah.
Is the currently planned secondary access.
I had heard that, and this is just, hearsay, that once there were 70 to 80 houses built up there, that the road would be put in. Is that correct?
I'm not sure what numbers those are. I don't know if, John, if you know how many homes that is, I'm not sure. I just have to go back and look and see what their plans are.
Cameron, I just wanted to thank you for sending the inspector out. I know there were a few people that were a little worried about that, so thank you so much for sending them out to check that out.
I live in Sunbrook, and I have a plot.
Please state your name, if you would, for the record.
Bob Routsong.
Thank you, Bob.
I live in Sunbrook. I live in the French Quarter. I've lived there 16 years. All of a sudden, there's massive building going on in our community. But I have a plot map that shows on the Plantation Road, there are 18 parcels, I'm told, according to this plot map that I have. And I have understood that there will be, that has been already approved, over 2,900 lots. And almost 3,000 lots. And if you multiply that by 3, you're talking over approximately 10,000 people that will eventually, over years, be going through there. And if I understand correctly, there's only going to be 2 roads that go from Sunbrook Drive and then connecting down to Dixie Road. Now, as I think about that, those people, when they want, the vast majority, when they want to go up to Sunbrook to Sunset to go to Albertsons or Lynn's Market, guess where they're going to go? They're going to be using that Sunbrook Drive. That's a huge lot of traffic that's projected in the future. And my question to you is, can there be another access road to Dixie that will relieve some of that traffic? I don't know the answer, but it's a good question. I'd ask that you would seriously consider it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we'll let Cameron address it if you'd like, but yeah, I think it's all been kind of pre-planned as part of the master development plan.
I do need to clarify one thing. So the secondary access where Plantations Drive is for that DeBarrio area to come south, there's also other connections in there that you'll have. They're not necessarily required to build all the way down to Dixie Drive, down by the Tonnequin area. It will tie into Alienta Drive, Canyon View Drive, any other connection that's going on or will go on in the future per our road master plan.
The answer is to 70 to 80 houses.
I can address that. The number of houses that could be built prior to that secondary access. So the way it was approved that they were allowed to develop phases 12 through 16. And so, 16, right, Wes? 12 through 18. It was a total of 6 phases, and they've started doing 4 of those phases. When you look at those phases, it wasn't set out with the number of units. There were a certain number of densities that were in each one of these pods. If you look at the preliminary plats that we've approved and the final plats we've approved, right now in those areas, we're looking more around 500 houses in those phases. And so it's a little bit, well, it's quite a bit more than the 70 that was stated. But that's kind of the number of units that will trigger, or at least will trigger that secondary access, or at least the completion of Plantations Drive.
Okay. Thank you.
Could I just add one thing to answer your question too? Just so that you understand what the developer's done per the agreement. And that is, they also contributed when we did the new section of Canyon View Drive. We renamed the old section Osler and brought Canyon View Drive at the new alignment there through that undeveloped property. The developer of this property, contributed to the completion of that roadway to also provide that secondary access out, knowing that they weren't going to continue Plantations. They didn't have the obligation to go all the way south to Dixie Drive. So I just want noted that they've already contributed to remedying that problem with another access out.
Thank you, Sean. Yeah, Cameron mentioned it, but it's probably worth noting, and it may not be a positive thing to say, but it's the truth, and that is there's going to be a lot more traffic on Sunbrook Drive. It was planned for that. As Cameron said, it's a 5-lane, what we would call a 5-lane road because of the middle turn lane and or median, depending on where you are. But so there is going to be a lot more traffic on that road in the future. It'll be gradual, of course, and Plantations, or whatever it's called, drive will help that bear the full burden of it. But the other thing, I've been informed there are some online comments in the chat on the Zoom call, especially concerned with traffic and speed. And we'll do what we can there, as unfortunately we have to do all across the city. But we'll do our best we can to monitor speeds and issue warnings and tickets where appropriate to slow people down. And that's part of, I think, what Cameron's reminder was to the developer and the contractors was, certainly they need to obey the posted speed signs that everyone else should be obeying as well. So, and there was a comment, I think, about a potential crosswalk. We can share those comments with you, Cameron, and take a look at those things. Did I miss anything on that, Adam?
No, I think you addressed them all. I just wanted to perhaps request of our police department that we get a speed trailer out there.
Yeah.
Let's get one posted, and then if we could assign some extra patrols on speed enforcement, I think that would be appropriate.
And we rotate those around, and I think we've even purchased some additional ones, so we'll do that periodically. So we're with you. We understand. We'll do the best we can to mitigate the issues, but there as probably the people ahead of us that moved in and built our homes probably complained when we built. And I was talking with Councilwoman Larkin about this earlier. It's just, unfortunately, it's one of the problems with a developing and growing community. You're going to have some pains. Just talk to Little Valley, right, guys? Residents, and there's just a lot of development around.
My 9th birthday party was in a barn in a haystack right at that intersection of Sunbrook and Dixie Drive.
Wow.
There was actually a feedlot there. We called it the Mathis feedlot, right at that intersection.
Mathis Park.
That wasn't that long ago.
Let's see.
Was it?
How many?
But that's kind of indicative of what's happened in our community. You know, it's probably going to continue to happen, and so we'll do our best to try to mitigate some of that as that growth comes, and appreciate those concerns, so we can take a look at that and get moving on that traffic light and stuff, so we can mitigate that as much as we can.
Thank you, Jimmy. Good perspective. There are only a couple of actual native St. Georgians here. We have one there and one there, and in the audience we have a few. But in terms of on the council, I imagine this city has changed significantly. Michelle's been here a long time. Well, 28 years, you've been, something like that. Okay. Got to be careful.
I'm a native, but she's been here longer than me.
So anyway, there has been a lot of change. Someone asked again on the Zoom, I just got a notification, be clear when Plantations Drive will be extended. We really can't be. I wish we could be more clear, but it's clear in terms of the numbers and the phases that we've mentioned. It just depends on how quickly they build. Correct, Adam? So I wish we could be more specific, but it is specific enough. It is measurable, and so certainly as you see in the close to the 500 range of homes. Is that right, John? Is that what I heard? Then you're going to be seeing Plantations Drive, or whatever it's called at that point, be extended. And it may not be extended all the way, but we'll figure that out too, hopefully by then. So thank you for the comment. That was a little more than 3 minutes, but that's because we also wanted to try to respond to you. So thank you for staying within your time, and hopefully that helps a little bit. Even if you don't love all the answers, that's the straight truth. So appreciate it.
I don't love all the answers, but thank you for being honest.
You bet. Thank you so much. Let's see, we've got several other comments, and they're related to the same issue. You're certainly all welcome to speak, but if you can consolidate any of your comments, it'd be great. Let me just announce up front, this is all relating to irrigation in the central part of St. George. Sam Schmutz and J. Douglas Schmutz and Connie Childs and a guy named Sam MacArthur. So maybe in that order, Sam Schmutz, you'd like to make a comment on the ditch water irrigation? And just remember, keep it to 3 minutes, or else Jimmy Hughes will have to come down and escort you off.
Jimmy and I know Jimmy. I recognize him. So
He'll
and
take
he is
you out
St.
for a
George
root beer.
boy.
Okay.
Okay, my name is Sam Schmutz. My father's name was Ray Schmutz. My grandfather, before him, was John Schmutz. And he lived to be 103. And I now hold title to his property. He bought the lots that are 229 South and 237 South, 100 East in 1905. And with that, when he purchased, came water rights to the Cottonwood and St. George East Springs. And we have had a garden on that plot ever since then, between my grandfather, my father, and now myself and my brother Doug. We continue to garden there. And we will show you a couple of pictures. If you don't, just bring them up. Okay. So this is our garden as it stands today. We have about 1/3 of an acre for regular garden crops, and we have 18 fruit trees and 36 grapevines, 5 different varieties, and a variety of fruit trees there. We have had and counted on that ditch water for a long time. In fact, it is a right. And I respect what the city is trying to do in moving forward, but I think you are usurping our rights as water holders in those original springs. And we have used it and proved up on it over all these years. And so I am here. I have hoped that we could have a meeting at some point and discuss other options. The one that you have proposed is a first offer. We're not happy with that. All of us in the neighborhood who use this ditch water, I am hoping that we can have an opportunity to sit down and discuss and talk about some other possible solutions. We have ideas. One of our members, John Miles, is not here today, was not able to attend. Oh, is he here? All right. I will let you address your paper. In fact, can I give him the rest of my time?
Well, your time's up, but maybe someone else could yield theirs.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Yeah, we're gonna have
We
to-
did get your letter, Mr. Miles.
Yeah, we did get your letter that someone delivered to us earlier today, but thank
My
you.
hope is that we can get together and find a better solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Just need a minute. I brought you some tomatoes
Oh, wow.
for all the council members to know.
Thank you.
These tomatoes were planted and started with culinary water. After they got going, I watered half the time culinary and the other half with your poison water that you send down the ditch. Outside, I have corn that I planted March 15th. It is that tall. It's gone to tassel. There's no corn. 6 weeks ago, I planted the same seeds in another spot and watered it with culinary water, and outside I got corn that tall I can show you. So I don't want your poison water. I want the East City Springs back in my ditch, or there will be a lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me follow up with that, if I may. This corn,
It's Doug, right?
yes, it's Doug Schmutz. And we've been farming this for a long time. Where's the, how do I put address to the west? Thank you.
Doug, will you just kind of pull that mic over when you're ready to start
Yes.
talking again?
This is our corn, which we've been watering with the ditch water. Of course, we make up the alkali that's in that water by adding gypsum to our soil, and it helps. We'd still rather have the water we originally owned, which we think we still own. And so we think you haven't any right to take it away and say, well, we won't charge you for 2 years and then we'll cease giving you the water. We don't believe you have that right. And the paper that John has passed out will explain that in some detail, and an alternative that we believe is both right and fair.
March 18th, gone to tassel, no corn.
Well, here's ours, and it's
6 weeks old, planted and watered with culinary water, same seeds, same property, look what I got. You can't keep poisoning the ditch.
This is last year's one day's pick. We obviously couldn't eat it all. We're not the only ones who benefit from this garden. This was before I made trips around several blocks, distributing our produce to people who needed it. We generate a lot of oxygen too. So we think that it's worthwhile to the city and the community to maintain our water and our rights. I could go on. We share with our neighbors. Here's a neighbor lady in the bucket of Sam's tractor picking apricots, which we just finished. We have 2 trees, and we gave 100 pounds of apricots away, besides the ones that we used and bottled ourselves. Here's some little girls of another family picking the same tree. We believe that the community benefits more than just our benefit, and that we have a right to retain that water and ask you to honor that ownership. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Okay, Connie, yeah. Thank you, Dr. Childs.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Dr. Childs. I'm a scientist of social behavior in politics, government, international relations, public administration, business, and finance. I have taught, researched, and written articles at the university level about the relationship between good governance and civil society. I often ask my students to look at historical property that is around the area. I, too, myself, have been heavily involved in history throughout the St. George, Washington County area. I've served as a Washington County Historical Society president. I've built trails and monuments in Santa Clara. When I taught at the university at NAU, Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff, we talked about how city councils can help the people, the civil society, become more concerned with history. But unfortunately, there is a problem that's surfacing throughout the world with globalization and ethnic regionalization. They collide. I also ask, how may local politicians and planners balance the external imperatives of globalization with the internal politics of culture, particularly in the cultural landscapes upon which a rescaled city must necessarily be constructed? I give several examples that we talk about throughout the world, where people, as visitors to that area, will see something that is so historical, and yet behind them are skyscrapers. Unfortunately, today there is a fundamental tension of our age between globalization and local resistance, between political integration and fragmentation, between entrepreneurism and regionalism. It has complexity. Said another way, in this cultural landscape is a bitter struggle to define the proper scale of a historic life in the face of transformative forces of economic globalization and political integration. Bronson R. Tatton, a Utah State University, wrote his thesis and was actually here on an internship for the city of St. George. He said in his paper that it would be, let me see if I can get it the correct, bear with me, I'm sorry. Here we go. It is recommended to preserve the open air flow of the current active irrigation ditches. The practice of covering the ditch is discouraged, as there is only a few functioning irrigation lines in town. I live on 148 East, 100 South, just barely moved back to St. George. On our property, there's 128 roses that are original pioneer roses. There are 28 grapes that Benjamin Blake and Edward Bunker brought to the area. We have 4 lilacs from them, 2 pomegranates, 4 peaches, 2 plums, a pear. We have strawberries, we have nut trees, we have mulberries. But I recently found an article about information located in western New York in a property that's called, quote, quote, the Sacred Grove. It is now a visitor center, and when they first made it into a visitor center, owners of the property enlisted many people to pick up branches, trees, rakes, and maintain the land. The ecosystem started to die and showed many problems. Trees were showing signs of stress, so they brought an expert in, and the expert said, "You are loving this property to death." So after their extensive analysis, the property owners decided to let it just go. I bring up this example because it eventually took care of itself. The animal life returned. If the irrigation flooding stops in the historic district, what will happen to the ecosystem? Not only would the cultural landscape eventually die, but the bird, animal, and insect life would dwindle. Even if a drip system were installed, they would run constantly to maintain the system and the ecosystem and the roots that have been there since 1860. What is happening to St. George is hardly unique. In cities across the world, local politicians and planners and citizens struggle over the future of urban landscape, seeking a way to come together. The historic, cultural, and symbolic ecosystem of plant, animal, bird, insect is hanging in the balance. It is being fought by citizens to maintain it, to keep it. This historical culture and symbolic system is something that the city of St. George should also be fighting for. Society and the city working to keep this valuable treasure would be considered good governance. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Childs. Okay, and Sam MacArthur. Uh-oh.
I just wanted to make a comment. I've tried to get a hold of all the council members. I've got a hold of 2, and I've left voicemails, and I've called, but never had a return call and gave up on them. I just don't want them to give up on me. We've had the irrigation forever. You know, the city's been trying to take it away for years, and they've, you know, as one generation passes away, they take it and do the other. There's a lot of people that don't use it. There's a lot of things. We need to discuss this and need to discuss it. Probably this isn't the proper place where we can cover everything. But I appreciate this opportunity to express a few thoughts and feelings. I have people come out 100 South. In fact, they were trying to get cars moved off that street so they could paint those bicycle lanes this morning. Hopefully I helped the officer find somebody to move one of those cars. I was out spraying the tomatoes in my garden. I have a lot of people walk by there. It's very visible to the city, and people come by, guests of the city that are living in the old Dixiana dorm, any of you know where that's at, that walk out to the university and back. And they're curious about this irrigation and other things. I know there's, I've talked to the city staff. They said there's a lot of wasted water. It could be used somewhere else. We can put it in a secondary system and put it out in the new section of town, but we can't afford to give you a secondary system. We'll just take your water away. And I don't think that's right. You know, I really feel strongly about that. I want to be honest, I want to be frank, and I want to be a participant in the community. I try to keep the properties I'm responsible for in a pleasing way. If I lose that opportunity to irrigate properly, then I'll just let the weeds grow, and then I'll get a call from the city and say, you got to cut it down, do this or whatever, you know. So I think we just need to be honest with ourselves. So city's progressing, water needs to be used, but a lot of this water you can't put in the culinary system anyway. So I just appreciate the opportunity to express thoughts and feelings, and I think we need to have a discussion. Progress is progress. I don't like it. I mean, I live a block from where I grew up. I'm next to my grandparents' home. You know, I'm one of those good old boys, I guess, that everybody hates anymore. I don't know. But I love this community. I love Dixie area. I love St. George. I have a very strong affinity for it. My family has supported and supports it very much. And I just appreciate a voice in the community that recognizes, instead of having everybody come in and move in and say, oh yeah, we love it here, but I think we ought to change it here a little. I think we ought to change it there a little bit. Let's have a discussion on it. There's a lot of good ideas that come in, but there's a lot of good ideas, other ideas that come in that aren't so good. And there's a lot of good ideas here that we've had, and I feel like our voice needs to be heard as much as others that's moved in. They're all good. Most of them are good people, and I really appreciate them. And we've welcomed them with open arms. I just wish they would return the favor, some of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Appreciate the comments, and appreciate the comments, and maybe we can just, I think due to time, and I think Sam's right, we probably ought to have some further discussion about it, and go through some of the ideas. Jimmy Hughes doesn't have any comments on it, I know that.
I'll take my 3 minutes real quick. Thank you all for coming. And I think and Scott's probably listening on Zoom, so he better plug his ears. But Scott's doing a good job, and he's not wrong about some of the things that we've been presented with as far as the better use of water. And I'm not going to say I agree with that. We have to remember that there are some people that would say that we waste a lot of water on golf courses. There are some people that say we waste a lot of water in parks. So we have to really be careful what we say about wasting water. What we're doing is we're using that water. And that's what I feel like this irrigation, downtown open ditch irrigation is. To me, it's historical. I've really appreciated that from the good doctor. My parents, before they passed away the last couple of years, their life revolved around the irrigation turns of the St. George ditch water. They really did. I understand the passion, and to me, I also understand a little bit about Mr. Miles' frustration, because that was one of the things that we noticed as we irrigated, is some of that water isn't as good as it used to be. Now, fortunately for the Smoots, they figured out, and some of the rest of you how to make that still work. I'm interested in knowing more about that, but I really think we should look at this another time. I know Scott is just fit to be tied, but it is historical, and it is something that is very soothing to the soul. I know I joked about that earlier in an email, but it really is. It's something about open ditch irrigation and that historical nature of it that obviously these people are passionate about, and I think other people would be if we gave them the opportunity in that downtown area. They're right. What's happened over in the past is as a user has passed away or moved, they're not able to renew that on that same piece of property. That's been taken away over the years. We've done that. Water is for fighting and whiskey's for drinking, and water law is very weird. There might be some validity to that argument that there is some water rights there, and I'm not going to go any further on that, but I appreciate you all coming and standing up for what you think is right, and I think we do need to talk about that and see if there's some way we can't do that. Yes.
Can we schedule that discussion?
I'm okay with it. Adam? We can contact you. I'm trying to see. I think every one of you has listed your email addresses on this. Yep, all of you have. And so we'll be happy to reach out to you, and we could schedule something.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I have water rights on my deed, and I'm curious, should I go pay the water?
Should you what?
To use it this year?
On your deed?
Yes, it's on my deed.
Sorry, Sean?
Oh, we need a name first.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, David Jenkins, 173 East 100 South. Okay, so if we could talk outside, let me get your information, and I will talk with the city recorder, and we will get you straightened out. Because
while we're making a decision on how this will all work out, we certainly want you to know that you'll have your water, and I think everyone would agree there. So let's talk outside, and I'll get your information, and we'll work that out.
That'd be great. Thank you, Sean, for doing that.
Thank you for growing those beautiful gardens downtown. I just moved downtown, and I've been enjoying your gardens. So any extra vegetables you have there, Mr. Schmutz, I'll give you my address. They look beautiful.
We have talked about, even just in this room a few weeks ago, we talked about not only this issue, but certainly related to this issue in terms of encouraging people to grow gardens. Danielle's talked about that. Really, we've all, in one way or another, said, we want to encourage that. We're just trying to figure out, I think, the best way to, to do it and to be as efficient as we can, and who pays what. There's just a lot of things that enter into it, but we do want to encourage what really you all are already doing. We'd like to figure out a way to make something work. Jimmy? I've noticed
tons.
that.
So sorry, indulge me one more. So Ray, Uncle Stan, right? And then where does Marcel fit in? To John. That would be Ray and Stan's father. Okay, so Marcel owned the ranch that I now own. When you see me out cowboying out to Tuweep, that's Marcel's place, right? Am I correct? I think so. All right, good. So see that? There's a connection.
Now we're done for.
Yep. Good. Okay, I had to make sure I had all my ducks in a row.
It's
Okay.
always good to make the connections.
Yep. Thank you all. Really appreciate it.
This will be a separate offline meeting.
We can have a discussion with you all, so we make sure we're getting. Doesn't have to be so formal.
Yep.
So we can get.
We'll meet around a table and we'll go through some things. Thank you. Okay, Adam, let's go to item 2. We've made it all the way to number 2. For those of you that are keeping score.
We are moving along. Item number 2 is our consent calendar. Are there any items, council, that you'd like to pull off the consent calendar for individual discussion? If not, we've reviewed these. These are all ready to go. I will make one note on the financial report. If you prefer, that's something that we can just start doing more administratively, perhaps quarterly. We're happy to do however you would prefer to see that information. You can just let us know sometime offline. But we're happy to continue to do this however you'd like. But these are ready to go.
Basically, as I recall, Adam, we're only required to approve them every quarter?
It's
or
not
no?
even an approval. It's the word used in the statute is review quarterly, right?
So
if you find it useful to get it monthly, we're happy to still do it. Each one takes Trevor about a day. About a solid day per month. We could do those quarterly, or we could continue to do them monthly. Either way, just let us know.
Okay, we'll talk about that offline. Do I have a motion, if there's no one that wants to pull anything from the consent calendar, do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, motion by Brian is seconded by Danielle. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously.
All right, next we're going to ask Jenna Goodwin to come present on CDBG.
Okay, so first, we'd like to amend as part of program year 19. Switch Point is switching their original allocation for facilities, which is about 80,000. They'd like to split that in half and continue to use the 40,000 for their facilities. They're replacing toilets and lights and things like that, and use another 40 for staffing hours to help address COVID. So that one would be a wash, just switching half of that budget. And then we'd also like to award them another 200,000 from program year 19 to help cover staff costs. So that's program year 19 changes. For program year 20, I have 5 subrecipients, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Memory Matters, Switch Point, Family Support, and Dove Center, all of whom we funded in the past. They're all asking to cover operating costs, such as leases and staff hours and things like that. It's about half of our budget. So what they've asked for is 300,000 of our 6. So we'd need to do another funding round for our normal program year budget. And we also need to put out another funding round for COVID. We're not touching our COVID funding yet.
That was my question. So that's coming, but not yet.
Right.
Okay.
From what we received, we didn't have enough to warrant touching that budget yet.
And Jenna, have these subrecipients demonstrated in the past that they've complied with
Yes.
the requests they've made? They're getting their reports into us.
Mhm.
They're hitting those key areas.
Yep, these 5 that I've got have all been very easy to work with.
Will you read those 5 again, Jenna?
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't get a list.
Can you tell us who they are in amounts,
Yes,
just quickly?
Big Brothers Big Sisters for 20,000, Memory Matters for 40,000, Switch Point for 230,000, Family Support for 10,000, and Dove Center for 25,000.
Perfect.
Sorry, how quickly would the COVID funding be coming?
It's we can put out funding requests again, have them apply, and get approval as soon as we need to.
I just know we've talked about this for Switch Point in particular, and I just didn't know. I know that they're concerned
Yes.
because they're doing these special, and Jimmy knows this, these,
The hotel.
yeah, the hotel, the quarantine space.
Yep.
Okay. So we're on that, and
Yes, so whatever's on here will address their COVID
Okay.
issues as well for now. And then we
Okay.
can still do another funding round.
Okay, I've got you. Good. Questions, council?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the community development block grant as been explained.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Brian. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Jenna.
All right, it's time for land use, so looks like Dan's on his way up.
You better write down. Sure, sure.
All right. Thank you. This item is to consider approval of an ordinance changing zone from A1 agriculture excuse me, to RE 12.5 on approximately 21 acres for a residential development generally located at approximately 2400 South Crimson Cliffs Way. So you may recall that about a month ago, the applicant came before you to make this request. And at that time, you heard the request, and it was tabled till today. And so they are coming back for your
Dan.
consideration.
Dan, will you speak into the mic for us?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. So they're coming back to you now for your consideration for this request. Just a brief reminder, there are 2 parcels involved. One of them's approximately 11 acres, and one's about 10. The applicant is here, and I think that they've actually are proposing to make a slight change to their request, but I'll let them discuss that if you would like to have them up. That's just the background behind it, and it's here for your consideration at this time.
Yes, let's do hear from the applicant.
So Dan, this hasn't changed at all except for what they're going to explain to us from the last time it came.
Right, what you saw in your packets is exactly what you saw about a month ago.
Okay.
Yep.
My name is Dave Weller. I know a lot of you. I'm the owner of the land that we're talking about today. The thing that I wanted to talk about the most is I understand that the goal is to have some farmland out there, and I appreciate that. I've lived here a year longer than Michelle. We moved here in 1977. I love St. George. I love all of this. It's changing dramatically, and that's good and bad. So, but what we're trying to do is build homes out there. And so the big thing that happened is we were waiting for Washington City to decide what they were going to do with the land east of the purple piece up here. So they went to R110, and that is being built, or is in process. And Bob, my engineer from Bush and Gudgel, is the one that helped them with that. And so we thought that the RA12.5 was a good feathering into the larger acre parcels that you want to have. And so it wasn't that we just came up with something, it just felt like a feather. Now I understand that it's a different city and you can't control what's on one side and they can't control what's on the other. But for the residents who live out there, feathering is still the general planning purpose that they're the means that you use for deciding on zoning and everything. So we have the 2 parcels. My request would be that the purple piece be different than the red piece, for whatever name you want to call that, from a feathering means. Troy Dennett, who owns the Smoots Enterprise land, I have about 21 acres and he has about 23 acres. He and I are on the same page as far as what we're trying to do. He wanted to get to the RE12.5 also, but they haven't run theirs through yet. So at a minimum, I would ask that the purple piece be different, whether it's RE12.5 and then the pink piece is RE20, or whether you go RE20 on the purple piece and RE12 37.5 on the pink piece. I just think from a feathering standpoint that it makes sense, and it still doesn't get into the big green pieces that you're trying to get into. The other thing, and I say this with all due respect, is when I look around at what's being built on 1 acre lots, it just isn't, like these are drone shots from a week or so ago, it just isn't farms, it's big houses and pickleball courts, and so it's great to say that we want the many farms out here. I'm just not seeing the many farms being built. So if the conversation is actually about density, that's different, but I just don't believe that there are going to be many little small farms out here, and the market price of the land just doesn't justify that either. And so anyway, that's all I'm asking for, is that even though it's crossing a city boundary, that we use the same principles for feathering and see what we can do, and then to preserve some of that big green space. I understand that, and then you feather into that, and you feather up from the south and try to preserve that. So that is all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Council, maybe a little discussion on this. And by the way, I don't think any of us would disagree with what you just said about what tends to be happening. We just, I think, have felt in the past, we just want to preserve as much as possible the ability for it to happen. But Jimmy, what are your thoughts in terms of, you heard what he said about either RE 20 or RE 12.5 on the one piece, and RE 37.5, which is essentially acre lots on the other. Thoughts? And then anyone else, but.
Well, and that's what we've seen in other places, so I'm not, you know, his line of reasoning is not way out of line. However, what the reason, you know, unfortunately, this is the kind of the Alamo here where we've taken the last stand, because it ends here. What we've seen happen in Little Valley when we were trying to create that, what was the word that Gooch used?
Critical mass.
Critical mass of the types of density, even though they're not going to build farms. I mean, let's be honest, you're right. But there is a market for those bigger lots and the bigger homes and the less density, if nothing else.
And Jimmy, can I add to that?
Yes.
The ability to have an animal on that space.
Right. And even if you don't have an animal, you're moving in there knowing that your neighbors might, and that's where the issue comes in. So the flip side of that is when you're right around that school, you would say, well, our planners might say you should put more density near that area. However, I think our planners too can look at this area and say we have a unique ability to be able to do something different here, and it might be the last place we can do it. And if they want to chime in on any of that, they're welcome to as well. But so it is a difficult, and look, let's be honest, I'm a property owner down there, so this could bite me in the rear end at some point in the future as well when I decide to leave, but if I ever decide to leave. But yeah, so this is a difficult dilemma on one end. On the other end, if we've talked about this a long time, if this is what we're going to do, we probably have to maintain that in this area. I'm not 100% opposed to doing some feathering with half acre, but I think we should pick that number. The 37.5 is what we've agreed on, and say we need to somehow stick to that. And that's, I know that's not what you want to hear, but that's what we've been trying to accomplish in this area. So, and I've had several people call me about several other parcels down there, and asking, hey, do you think we can get this? Do you think that we can get that? And because we haven't had a firm number until now of the 37.5, it's been kind of up in the air. There's some parcels that are existing. There's some people that already own land that their parcel's probably not going to quite fit into 37.5 as they try to break a piece off for their children to build a house. And, you know, they've already approached me and said, what about half acre? The danger is, again, you start, how do we say one can and one can't? And that's, you know, look, I'm not in charge of everything down there, so you guys, you know, I'm open to suggestions.
Yeah, let's have some other thoughts. Yes, Applicant representative.
Bob Hermanson, appreciate the time and the extra comment. Just to clarify, just two quick items. So on the east side, the blue parcel, the thought process is the compromise and the feathering comment is that the 10s on the east side, which is the Washington side, is to essentially go to the RE20s on the blue, and then the 37.5s in the pink, to still have that little bit of a transition in there to kind of blend what I think one of the comments were.
So is that the city boundary on the east side of that purple?
That is exactly
what's north of you, and do you know who owns that, or is that?
North is Washington City as well, which is Layton Construction, actually out of the developers out of the Wasatch County area.
Just north of your parcel is
Yes.
Washington City, so it makes a little jog there?
It is. This property is the boundary.
So more than likely you're going to have R110 or smaller right north of you.
That's correct. Yeah, so the thought process was as a compromise to go R110 on the east, R110 probably on the north, to go to the 20s, to go up to double the size, and then 37.5s along the south boundary of the school. This is what we're presenting in the map. And then you can go from there, right? Go to your 37.5s if that's what you choose to go further south or the halves or whatever transition. Because at some point, you've got the 8s on the far south of this. I don't know if we can bring up the zoning map, but on the far south, as you work out of the green, you've got the rest of the group coming up with R18s, right? So you've got to go up and down in that cycle.
And that was our overall compromise,
Yep.
is saying, hey, we know we're going to have some, the R18, very small lots, and so let's try to keep the bigger lots down in this area that we saw as green.
Yep.
So
yeah, and so in our thought process, having that extra information from the last meeting was to double the size from Washington side just on that one boundary, do the 37.5s, and then still be the RE zoning, right? Still be the RE, and then transition. I don't know what you would go from there. In my mind, you would go to 37.5s, maybe continue along the pink on the south, and then at some point, again, go back down to the R8s on the far south side. Does that make sense? So anyways, it's just the compromise is that just trying to buffer the 10s with the size to get to the 37.5s. So basically, we're just splitting it in the middle with this small transition area instead of going from 10s to 1s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was the thought.
Wes and John, do you have a comment on that?
Well, we were just kind of talking about, I think we can't control, and no one expects we can control what Washington does, but their default just seems to be R110, period.
Yeah.
Or more dense.
I wasn't going to say it.
Yeah, and so we can't really worry about that. I think we have to do what we feel is best for our corner of the world.
Did you get that on record? The mayor said Washington is dense.
Did I say that? I'm always in trouble.
I'm just helping you out.
I was just glad Bob clarified the colors because that was getting really confusing.
I know. I'm like, which is pink and which is purple?
Purple, blue, pink.
I'm the biggest one to hold the line here, and but I look at that little strip right there on that east side of the school, and I go, okay, what's likely to happen there? I mean, I don't know what the width of that space is and the road alignments.
Kind of hard. That's what I was thinking.
Greg?
Just a thought on it. The thought is, so I've been on the council for 6 months now, I guess, and thank you.
You're becoming a veteran, Greg.
I am. I think if we're setting principles, and we talk about this multiple times, but then we bend every time that we have something come in, I don't know if we're really setting, I don't know if all that talk and all those principles we're trying to set are being fulfilled. So that's just kind of my thought process on what we've been talking about on this.
Well, and that's where I was last time, that even before I was on the council and attending lots of meetings, it was like Charlie Brown's teacher in the background, blah, 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 blah. Exactly. We've got to protect this out there. We've got to protect this out there. And then we caved. You caved, or I didn't cave.
And I was the one preaching it, too.
And you were preaching it. So that's why I was so strong last time, because dang it, that's all we got.
So one of those things, there's a gentleman with a piece of property just, if you know where the Semister property is, Jolly is his name, and he's got a piece out in front of his house that's a half acre that will be nothing, because if we keep him at 37.5, it'll just be what it is now, a big place where he parks trailers. If he could build a house there, then he would have a half acre lot. And so it made me kind of take a pause and go, okay, we always have to look at the unintended consequences. Are we just going to leave that because the way his house already is situated, if he builds another house there, then he'll be okay. But if he has to leave at 37.5, he just has a big empty spot that he probably won't ever use besides mow the weeds down. So that being said, I'm okay at 37.5, and I know that's the line we want to keep. I'm not totally against some feathering there with a half acre. Half acre is still a pretty good lot size. I live on a half acre, and it's too much for me. Yeah, right. And I don't know. What do you think, guys? 37.5 is the rule. If it has to fit, it can be RE20. Don't weaken on me here. I'm putting you on the spot. Because you've been listening to my crap, and then you're saying, what's wrong with him?
No, the feathering is always really difficult, because at some point you're feathering to a point and there's a line, and you just have to figure out where that line's at. It could be, if you look here, there's going to be a road right here, and there's going to be a road right there. So is that your transition, or are you going to transition with zone? And so there's a lot of different ways to do it. You guys have the difficult decision of determining how you want to do it. There's a lot of different options.
So there's going to be a road on both sides of that parcel.
Yeah.
So that's my point. So do we make that a weird parcel by saying it has to be, what's the size of that parcel?
12 acres.
Yeah, so
it's a little bit under 12 acres.
I'm good with what you guys decide.
So that was the one that though the applicant was saying they'd be okay if that was RE20.
So that's what they would like. They would like, and then the 37.5 on the purple.
Yes, that's the thumbs up.
37.5 on the reddish. I'm not sure.
Yes, pink.
Let's. And blue.
Yeah.
This area.
Yeah, horizontal and vertical. How about that? So the horizontal would be 20.
My
RE20.
colorblind? Is that
the
pink?
vertical would be 20. Vertical would be 20, and the horizontal would be 37.5.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry, I was saying it backwards.
I'm willing to take that compromise. I feel like we're gambling or something.
Well, and again, I'm just looking at. Like I said, I have a conversation with a few homeowners, and I see when we create a little issue for somebody that we didn't intend to create. So I just don't want to see a whole bunch of RE20 come requesting. That's my problem.
I wanted to ask, maybe it's irrelevant, but do we know for sure what the Washington City zoning is around that property? Or are we just speculating?
Just east? I think
east and north of the vertical parcel.
So I can do the best I can to answer that. So everything on the east is currently one large family trust in the Gibby family called Cardiff Wells. I am in the process of going through this with the city on that. There's 150 acres right there. That's everything on the east side. Everything adjacent to here. So on their far east, which is along Washington Dam Road, we're starting with commercial to a PUDR, which is a medium high density product, which is a townhome product. It's 10 dwelling units an acre. To then they are then transitioning from there. So from up to 12 dwelling units an acre to detached 6,000 square foot lots to 8s and then to 10s. And the 10s is the boundary because they were trying to merge in with you. And that was this same conversation with them a month ago was where we ended up, was trying to go up to you guys. And so to match that area. And so general plan is approved with this strip to be R110s. Zoning is going next week, but we've already agreed in the council minutes that it would be R110. We verbally agreed that that was what it was. And so it's all been, the strips themselves have already been provided with layouts and sized accordingly to only fit those sizes. So that developer's totally stuck with the entitlements that are in place. So that will be 10s right along the edge.
Bob, are you asking us to trust you on that?
You can do what you will. You guys know me pretty well, so whatever you think.
We'll find you. We know where to find you.
Yeah, you can come find me, no problem.
Thank you. Council, thoughts? Someone ready to?
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the zone change from A1 to the RE20 on the east parcel and RE37-5 on the remaining portion, noting that that is because of the transition.
I'll second that.
Motion by Jimmy with a second by Danielle. Any discussion on the motion?
My thought process is there is that doesn't open the door for that to happen over here in the middle of all that A1.
I think that's wise.
Is that okay, Sean?
That sounds clear to me. Is it clear, John? Yes.
Any discussion, council? All in favor, starting with Danielle, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Appreciate you working with us. Yep, thank you. Yep.
It's okay.
Numero 5, huh?
Okay. This is, item number 5 is to consider approval of an ordinance for a zone change from R110, single-family residential, 10,000 square foot minimum lot size, to a PDR, a planned development residential on property generally located at 1400 East Riverside Drive.
Dan, real quick, while you're setting up for that, I was just going to make a note to the council. We've got another item related to this, item number 7. So Dan's going to give us the background on both of these at the same time. We should have put them back to back on the agenda. We overlooked that.
It would take 2 motions, but we'll do it together.
Yeah. So this is the property. You can see Riverside Drive here on the south. River Road is here. Not directly, but close by to the west. You can also see this road that says 1450 East. It doesn't exist yet. But that's part of the one of the key elements of making this particular development work is the construction of 1450 East. And I'll show you here in a minute the site plan and how that would how that'll function and work together. But that's the area. You can see in the general plan, it was master planned, I believe it was last year, for medium density residential. So that goes up to 9 units per acre. And the zoning map, again, as I stated before, it's R110. You have a PDR to the west, adjacent to the property, but a lot of R110 around it, and hillside also over here. So this is a look at the site. Now the site is tilted 90 degrees counterclockwise. So you can see Riverside Drive here on your right, and then this 1450 East, which would connect to Riverside Drive. That is a road, and Wes may choose to weigh in on this a little bit, but that is a road that is planned for the future. But this development that is being proposed now is dependent upon that road being constructed. You can see that the access that they have is off of that road, 1450 East, or whatever it gets named, and has no access onto Riverside Drive. So that is a key point to this functioning the way it does. The proposal is for 11 threeplexes and then 2 fourplexes for a total of 41 units. That is approximately 8.5 units per acre, which meets that density of under 9 units to the acre that's found in the general plan. So that's the basic layout. Again, no access to Riverside Drive, all off that future road, 1450 East. This is a look at the buildings themselves. Again, this is a fourplex, but there will be mostly threeplexes, and then a couple of fourplexes like this. This has been constructed previously in, I believe it's Washington, and so this is a look at the final product that was built there. And then this is the materials board. I have it here if you would care to look at the real thing. So that's the proposal. There is also a plat. I'll let Wes discuss that plat in further detail.
Before we leave it, that road would be planned to go up to 900 and eventually up to Foremaster, correct?
Yeah, so the plan is with Abington is to build the road from Foremaster down to 900.
So that's the assisted living place that's right by the Coral Desert place, by my office, if you guys
so
know.
that would have to be done before they do this?
Well, at least their portion has got to be done as they do this, right?
Yeah, so, well...
Not the whole portion.
But you have to be able to get access to it. I mean, you can't just... Am I misunderstanding? How do you get,
access to which one?
Yeah, the initial part of the road would have to be done, Jim.
Right.
Yeah, up to this from Riverside.
Right.
Yes,
Right. Okay.
Right.
And the Abington would have to build part of it by them as well. It's the connecting it all that I'm not exactly sure when that happens, but eventually we want that to go all the way from Riverside to Foremaster. Right? Adam? And
yeah, so it goes from Riverside to Foremaster up.
Yep.
You're right.
But not initially. It would just be initially, it would go up to, you remember how they came over? It accessed from that.
So we've entered into an agreement. We haven't finalized it yet, but working on an agreement with Foremaster as he owns the property where the Abington is. And so the city and Foremaster are going to help pay for the road from Foremaster down to 900 South as part of his development. And then it's also tied to the transfer of property with the city and the Dixie Foundation. So we're still trying to work those two agreements out.
So then this property owner would have to hook in at 900 South, or is that, I'm still confused of where the main access is coming into these
So as Dan
units.
said, their access will come from Riverside up this way to here, north to right there.
And that's as far as they'd have to build
So
it.
then the intersection at Riverside has to be completed.
Right.
Yeah, and so Alpha's doing this, designing this subdivision, so we're going to hire Alpha to then design 1450 from Riverside up to 900. The developer would be responsible, even though it doesn't sit on his property, the road, we discussed it with the developer, and they'd be responsible for a portion of developing that road, and then the city, again, would be responsible for the rest of the road. And so we'll do a reimbursement agreement with them wherein they build it, and whatever the city is responsible, then we would reimburse them for those costs. As the mayor indicated, then from here to the north, it would be the city's responsibility because nobody's developing.
Wes, what about 950 South? It's hard for me to tell from the picture, like, will they take that all the way across so that they can also exit
You mean 900 South?
950, I think
Which
it
one's
says?
I think that's a private drive, isn't
Is
it?
That's
Is
what I'm
that part of that?
curious.
Right here?
It's the extension
Then-
of 900, isn't it? Kind of?
So as you go for...
This northern end?
If you look at the map that identifies the parcel,
yeah,
you can see 950 South, and I think it's part of that private drive in those townhomes.
So with the Abington, we'll finish 900 South from where it currently ends to the intersection of 1450 and 900.
But there'd be nothing at 950.
What I'm seeing, Adam explained, there's a wall across 950.
Oh,
I can't see it on my
I'm
images.
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So
900 is the one between the church and that
yes.
that little complex,
Yeah,
office
and
complex.
there's a little portion right there that isn't done, hasn't been completed. So with the Abington, we'll extend, like I said, 1450 down to 900, take 900 from where it currently ends on the east end and tied in to make an intersection there at the substation.
So conceivably, they could come onto 900 to exit, to have access to this subdivision.
That's right.
Versus just Riverside.
Right.
And there's already a light at 900.
Yeah, so the plan is that this will extend up to 900, and so they would be able to access either Riverside, 900, or up to Four Master.
Nice.
Plus, in addition, this would allow, we're hoping that this alleviates some traffic on River Road as people can come up this route here and avoid River Road if they're going to the hospital or something like that.
Then
kind
Wes,
of pull off that traffic.
On Riverside, I think there are two things. For westbound traffic, deceleration lane,
Yes, that would be Bart right here.
and then extending the center turn lane. There is currently a center turn lane on
Right.
Riverside, but it stops before that 1450
You're
intersection.
correct.
So we will continue that
Yes.
to allow that center
Yeah.
turn. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
That'll be part of the improvements right here with this right there. And so the plan is, since Alpha's doing this, we're going to hire them to then design 1450 up to 900. And they're also designing the one from 900 to Four Master, so it should all work out pretty good.
And you said the one for Riverside is not designed, that intersection?
This portion right here from Riverside up has not been designed. The other portion from Four Master to 900 has been designed because the Abington's further along in the process.
But this will be, in order for this to get
Yeah,
built.
for this to,
That's a weird bend in Riverside right there, and
Yeah,
that
it
whole
is.
thing's going to have to be
it's
done
a-
right.
So we have to make sure they have the sight distance that they need to be able to pull out of there and be safe.
Can you foresee a signal going there?
I'm trying to figure out how you make it, how you come
Do a
in-
left turn.
Yeah, going east, how you make a
Yeah.
left turn there with any safety at all.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. But it is.
And I'm not an engineer.
Yeah, that's the only way you could get in. If you're
If
eastbound.
you're coming eastbound, you have to make a left turn.
I think she's saying if you're turning out.
Yeah, you can do right out only, but right out
Well,
only.
it's supposed to
but-
be a full access, and it does fit, as I remember, it does fit the distance required between signals, which is like 1,300 feet. So, no one's said this is going to be the signal place yet, but it would make the most logical sense.
There've been a couple accidents on that turn.
It'll be a blind corner. I mean, the hill juts out right there, so it's kind of hidden
Yep.
where that comes out.
It'll be a little tricky.
Let's go
That's
ahead and
concern.
put the conduit in when we build it.
Yeah, I think so, because I think it's going to happen sooner than we think.
Yeah.
Yeah, once this opens up, I guess that's the hope, is that it gets used, and so you're pulling traffic off of River Road and so forth.
You already have people flipping a U-turn at the entrance to that
Yeah.
condominium because you can't get in the turn lane after you come out of the post office. So you go straight, they go straight. I shouldn't say you go straight. They go straight and flip a U-turn right there. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on right in there already.
Yeah. The subdivisions, as you're well aware of, this one right here and this one over here, they have a hard time getting out at certain periods of the time onto Riverside.
Yes.
And the downside to them is they only have that one access from those developments onto Riverside. The good thing about this one is even though there is one access, you can go south or you can go north.
Right.
And be able to get out of there, easier.
What's the density on those parcels to the west of this parcel?
I think they're MDR, aren't they, Dan?
Sorry, Dan, I should ask you why you're up there.
I looked this up. So
This was going to be 8 to the acre. What is that one? Just curiosity,
let me pull
roughly.
it up so we can look at, maybe, here we go. So this one's good. So this portion of, this one is a separate one, and then this one is another one. So the one on the south is about 7.25, so 7.25. This one is about 8. This
So
one on the north.
Close.
Uh-huh. Yeah, relatively close.
Okay. Seems like a good spot for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not close to a fire station. Do we need to talk about a fire station?
That was rich.
No.
Yeah.
Disregard the fire station thing.
Well, and it's going to be on bus routes and stuff like that too, or close.
Yeah. The old Ralph MacArthur farm.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'll just use Dan's plan here. So they are, let's see, they are requesting, you can see right here on the preliminary plat, it actually shows the sidewalk extending around to here, because that's what we requested. However, they are requesting approval to eliminate the sidewalk through here. The problem is it's about an 8-foot drop from here to here, and
Yep.
can you see it?
Along the west?
I got a glare here, I can't see. But anyway, so they are requesting to build it like this, eliminate the sidewalk, stop the sidewalk here and eliminate it here. Otherwise, they'd have to build about a 6-foot wall right behind the sidewalk to make that transition. And they felt like with no units on this side, that would be a good place to end the sidewalk there.
It's not nearly the drop it used to be.
Yeah, I know.
So Wes, on that, what's the plan for the trail going through there? Does the trail go through this section, or does it go?
Yeah, so the trail is going to extend from Four-Master. They're actually designing it or getting ready to design it from Four-Master at least down to Riverside, and I think from there down to the Virgin River. They will be building this portion of the trail. I mean, that's the plan right now, is to have them build this portion of the trail with the subdivision.
Yeah.
So while the developer's in there, they'll be building that trail right there.
And they go under
And there's
Riverside?
already the
Yeah, they'll
space
go
to go
under
under.
Riverside right here and that, whatever that was built for.
Tractor.
Yeah, it's a large underpass. But yeah, they will be going under there and then on to the Virgin. The developer also had proposed an 8x8 culvert there to be able to pipe that ditch underneath this access road here. Staff has requested if it could be an 8x10 allowing pedestrian, because the trail will continue to come from the north and then come under here.
Yeah,
and so they have
absolutely. Let's make it.
They have
big
agreed.
enough.
They would go 10x10, but as you remember, they have that sewer line that sticks out in the air right through here. Although I think they may have buried it by now. But
Yeah.
when I talked to the engineer, he said the 10x10 they couldn't do because the depth of the sewer and the height of that wouldn't allow for it. But he figured they could fit an 8x10 in here. Talked to Parks, they felt comfortable with that as a pedestrian crossing. So Mark Eaton may not be able to cross, but the rest of us probably could.
It'll be a low, okay.
It would be a little bit low. And then, let's see, they would be responsible for, the developer would, and we'll have to work that out with them as far as their portion of 1450. It'll be a narrow road, we've looked at it, and with the hillside and the wash over here, we're gonna have to go more narrow than we normally would. The plus side is there won't be any parking along there, so it should be able to convey almost the same amount of traffic. You just won't be able to have any parking along there. And then we're working with the developer to see if they can dedicate that trail to the city instead of just putting it in an easement. And then we're working with Four-Master to try to get the wash through here so that the city can maintain that wash.
Perfect.
Can I ask where would that trail go? I'm just curious. So it'll just stay along the new road and come up towards the hospital?
It'll come up along here till it gets to 900 South, and then it'll cross 900, and it'll go on the east side of the extension of 1450 from 900 up to Four-Master.
And then it's going to go under Four-Master.
Then it's going to go under it'll go under Four-Master.
Oh, it's going to go under Four-Master.
There's a couple culverts there.
Right.
That are kind of needing to be replaced anyway, and we'll just make them bigger box culverts so that then it can tie into the hospital's trail.
Really like that connectivity.
And then go up.
That's cool.
And that'll go
and
up.
that'll actually be a great connection then to the 400 East underpass, because then you can go from
Cross
there.
at the light.
Yeah, you can cross at lights all the way up to the university.
Get
so.
you downtown.
Yeah.
Just on the full trail
and you
system.
can get clear to the Virgin River Trail. It'll be a great connection.
Which gets used a lot. I mean, I live right around there, so
Yeah,
that's a
it'll be
great trail connector. I love it.
Yep, it'll be good. Okay.
One last historical moment. The first place I had Dutch oven rabbit, right there at the MacArthur farm.
Wow.
Wow.
You got a good memory.
It looked like chicken, tasted like chicken, but the furs hanging on the wall gave it away.
All right. And rabbit does taste like chicken.
It did. It looks like it a little bit too.
Are you ready for a motion?
We are ready.
Yeah, finally.
Call.
Second.
I'll make the motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance for zone change from R110 to PDR on property generally located at 1400 East Riverside Drive.
Second.
Motion by Greg with a second by Jimmy. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, starting with Greg, say aye.
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 Aye, sorry.
Motion carries unanimously. Now, if you're so inclined, I'd like a motion on item number 7 on the preliminary plat.
Motion to approve the preliminary plat for River Trail Townhomes, a 41-lot residential subdivision located at approximately 1400 East and Riverside Drive.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. The motion is by Michelle, seconds by Brian. Could we just make sure it's clear, and would you be willing, the two of you, I'd like to make sure it's stipulated that the trail, as it was presented, does get built and does get dedicated to the city. And with the, linkage and the box culvert and stuff, are you okay with that being in your motions?
Yep.
Motion?
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Number 6. 2 steps forward, 1 step back? No.
All right. One more for me and I'll get out of your hair. This is item number 6, which is to consider approval of an ordinance to approve a zone change amendment to the Boulder Creek Crossing Commercial Subdivision. Orient you, if I can move these. The building you see on your screen to the north of the red outline property is Popeyes. You see on River Road and 1450 South, not to be confused with the 1450 East we were just speaking of. But it's in relatively the close vicinity. So the property is this one, just to the south of Popeyes, north of the car wash here. The property is already zoned PDC, so that's already been established with the proper uses, et cetera. The use on this property on this project would just be standard retail and or restaurant uses. That's what the applicant is expecting in this property. This is a look at the proposed site plan. You can see the building here, and it is, again, to be a retail and restaurant use. The building is approximately just over 7,000 square feet, would be about 23 feet tall. You can see the parking here meets the code. This is a private drive that goes, let me go back here. You can see that here, it's already been constructed. It accesses this lot, and those would be lots 6 and 7. And it also accesses the Popeyes, and then you can see it also accesses the car wash. So that's a private drive that will be used for those purposes. You can see the park. There is some parking over here, which may not be what we'd prefer. It is still all on site, but they have parked it so the majority of the parking is actually on that east side, along with the building and the other amenities. This is a look at the building itself. Again, it's proposed to be about 23 feet tall. And then this gives you a better idea of what they're looking at. This is the rendering of the building. And then this would be the back side, or actually it's the side that you'd see mostly from River Road. And then these are the materials, again, ephes, brick, metal canopies. So that is the proposal. If you have any questions, I believe the applicant is with us via Zoom.
I just had one about access. So did you guys get these pictures? I couldn't get them to come up in our packets, but so the access off River Road it'll remain just off 1450, and then the access that's between Tag and Go and these spaces, and there won't be any additional River Road access. Okay, good.
No, that's correct.
Other questions for Dan before we turn it to the applicant's representative? Okay. Oh, Greg? Yeah.
So the storefront facing River Road there. Yeah, so there won't be any dumpsters or anything back there. Like it'll be, just visually appealing as we go down.
Right.
River
The
Road.
dumpster is actually proposed to be on this side, so
Okay.
closer to the private drive.
Okay.
Or, yeah,
Good,
the access.
good question. That's important as you put the back end, if you will, to the main street. Other questions? Okay, let's see. Applicant, is the applicant here?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, on Zoom. Yes.
Yeah, on Zoom.
State your name for the record, would you?
Yeah, Lionel and Rosie Gracia here as applicants. And yeah, as far as the building goes, we tried our best to make the backside that it will be mostly facing River Road most appealing with additional stone and windows to give it a better look. So that's what we tried to do. As far as parking, I know that was brought up. I don't know that we will need the additional parking that's across that road. I believe that even without that additional, I think 11 or 12 spaces, we will probably still meet required parking within the inside of the parking area mostly. And this is kind of a shared parking with all of the other lots. So they're not dedicated for building. So that is one thing that Popeyes can use our parking and vice versa. It's not like we're dedicated parking. So that also helps in spreading out the parking needs if those do arise. But if you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer anything we can.
Council, any questions for the applicant?
No, I'm just glad something else is going to be going in there soon.
Good to see some more happen.
Yeah, it will be nice.
I think it is, what's been presented looks nice and nice to see some more happening. It's there's some good things in there, although I must say I haven't gone to Popeyes yet. Sorry about that, but I do go to the car wash frequently.
I haven't either, but you don't need to because it is busy.
Yeah, I know
all
it's
the
busy.
time.
I know.
They're not lacking business.
It's like another chicken place I know in town. Okay, unless there are any comments, Council.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
One question perhaps for the applicant. Will these spaces, each of these be built with a grease trap, anticipating restaurants in any of them?
Well, there will be a grease trap design in there for all of the units. We don't know the total use. We do have one proposed tenant that will be somewhat restaurant oriented, but we are anticipating a grease trap big enough to accommodate additional restaurant sites if those do come up. So yes, there will be a grease trap for the building.
We have some pretty specific requirements on that, so I think you'll just want to make sure before you do it that, and I'm sure the staff will work with you, but we'll just want to make sure that you're fully aware of the level of requirements there.
We can't connect it just straight into the sewer, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right. Those days are gone. But yeah, if you'll just work with staff, that'll be great. Thanks for bringing that up, Adam. Any other questions, Council? Otherwise, I'd be ready for a motion.
I'll make the motion. I make the motion we approve an ordinance to approve the zone change amendment to the Boulder Creek Crossing commercial subdivision, as we've discussed.
Second.
Motion was by Greg with a second by Jimmy. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Danielle, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Great, thank you, Lionel.
Thank you.
Appreciate you and staff for working through this to this point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lionel and Rosie.
We're excited. All right, Wes. Hurry. You didn't ask either. Is it? I thought there was already going to be one up there. Is that something else? Yeah. Yeah. Rose. we're all guessing about what might be there. So, be interesting.
Is that the guess?
Yeah, so it can't be good.
Yeah.
It's not Mexican restaurant.
Are you still talking to me?
Well, kinda. Yeah. Do you know? Are you able to say yet who your tenants might be?
Well, we only have one commitment, and it's a very similar concept to. Well, we're going to have drinks, soft drinks like Swig style, but also cookies and cookie dough, edible cookie dough.
All right.
That is one on the drive-through. But we're looking for suggestions. Maybe a Mexican restaurant there. I don't know if you have any ideas.
Why don't you and Rosie open another restaurant?
Yeah. Well, those days are behind us, Danielle.
We're too old.
We don't think so, but
Yeah.
but we're glad to have you doing this.
Well, thank you. Thanks for your approval.
Thank you both. All right, Wes.
Okay, item 8 is a public hearing and consideration of an ordinance vacating an easement, a sewer easement belonging to the city of St. George. Sewer line was built outside of the easement. So this is Virgin River here. This is the Cox's properties. There's Sue Cox's place right here. 2780s over here. So the sewer easement is in the red right here. That's the easement that was dedicated. You can actually see that the sewer was actually built up here in that location. So they have, the city has been given an easement for this sewer easement, or sewer line, a 30-foot. And so now the request is then to vacate that existing easement where there is no sewer line.
Questions, council? This will require a public hearing, but any questions before we do that? Nope. Okay, then I will open the public hearing for this vast audience. I don't know if there are any online or in the meeting that would like to have make a comment or ask a question on item number 8, as was just presented. Anyone online? I'm not hearing anything. Or getting a text. Okay, then I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for your action. Kind of a housekeeping thing. Just a tough one.
Motion to approve the ordinance vacating an existing sewer easement belonging to the city of St. George located at approximately 1050 south and from approximately 2480 east to 2780 east.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Greg. Discussion? Jimmy has a comment. Oh, it was a snarky comment. All in favor, starting with Greg this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we're done. I think, was that it? I don't have any appointments. Adam, how do we want to do this? Do you want to have a quick break?
It's up to you. We could take a quick break. We could stay up here on the dais and just have a move into the work session.
I think we can stay up here.
Yeah.
We could set up tables, however you want to do it.
Let's just take a,
It might be good to allow CEC a chance to break down their stuff.
So let's do this. Should we have a motion, Sean, to end the regular meeting?
Let's adjourn from the regular meeting and then we'll reconvene.
In a work meeting. Let's do that. Could we have a motion?
So
for that
moved.
thing?
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Michelle. And any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned from regular meeting, and we'll reset here in 5 minutes after a potty break.
I know once I said that, I wondered if anybody remembered.